I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, no way out? Thousands of people appear to be stranded after Israel's offensive into Beirut causes major damage to a crucial highway on the Lebanon border, sounding the alarm. Why some lawmakers are questioning whether the government will be able to help if there's another natural disaster before the end of hurricane season. Get a load of this. The U.S. dockworker strike is temporarily over following late-night negotiations. What it means for the consumer and the economy. Plus, the Hunger Game. Learn more about an international initiative highlighting the benefits of fasting and prayer. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Francis of Assisi. Our top story tonight, the proverbial clock is ticking. There are now just 32 days until Election Day when Americans choose their next president. And now some big, well-known names are joining in on the action. The candidates hope it'll make all the difference in a very tight race. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
That's right, Tracy. Good evening to you. A very well-known billionaire who has a huge following on X, who in fact owns X, will join Donald Trump at a rally this weekend. And a former two-term U.S. president is planning to hit the road in the final weeks before the election day to try to help Vice President Kamala Harris at the polls.
When Donald Trump holds a rally Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania, where this past summer he survived an assassination attempt, joining him will be SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. The event will mark the first time the billionaire businessman appears publicly at a campaign event for the former president since endorsing him. And trying to boost Kamala Harris's chances, former President Barack Obama will soon visit key swing states, starting next week in Pennsylvania. Vice President Harris was in Michigan today, stopping first in Detroit.
This election is about two very different visions for our nation. One that is focused on the past, and ours that is focused on the future.
Her trip today coming as America's employers added a surprisingly strong 254,000 jobs in September. In a statement, President Joe Biden called the latest jobs report good news for American workers and families, adding unemployment has been the lowest in 50 years. But the Trump campaign unimpressed with the September jobs report, writing, Kamala Harris's economy puts foreign-born workers first and American manufacturers last. And President Trump has a plan to make America the manufacturing superpower of the world and protect American jobs here at home. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, coming off what many declared to be a winning debate performance over Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, visiting Lindale, Georgia today.
So what is our message to Kamala Harris and to the media that's trying to install her as the next president? Our message is, Kamala Harris, you're fired. Go back to San Francisco where you belong.
Now, former President Donald Trump is in Georgia and North Carolina tonight, and then in Wisconsin on Sunday. Now, separately, a big surprise earlier today when President Joe Biden walked into the White House briefing room. No one was expecting it. It wasn't on the schedule. I was able to ask him a question about what Pope Francis is urging people across the globe to do this Monday on the anniversary of the Israel-Hamas war.
Mr. President, sir, Pope Francis is calling for a day of fasting. Pope Francis is calling for a day of prayer and fasting on
Mr. President, Pope Francis is calling for a day of
prayer and fasting this Monday, October 7th. Your reaction, sir?
I will pray and fast.
Now, the president's appearance again caught a lot of reporters off guard, including myself. It was believed to be his only appearance in the briefing room during his term as president. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
While state and federal officials continue to survey the widespread destruction caused by Hurricane Helene, our nation's emergency funds are running low. FEMA officials announced while the agency has enough money to deal with the immediate response to Helene, could run out of funds before hurricane season ends, and that is on November 30th. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has that report. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. This is definitely not the news you want to hear, especially if you're living in the southeast part of the country. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA, says it has enough money to handle the latest disaster, but the $20 billion that it has in reserves could be depleted soon.
What we're also doing and planning for right now is how do we continue to bring resources in that can sustain the need for the next several weeks, or as long as it takes to get some of these critical services like water restored to these communities.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement, quote, "We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season." As of Monday, President Joe Biden was weighing whether he needed to call Congress back into session to approve more funds. Lawmakers aren't due to return to the Capitol until November 12th. However, such a request might prove complicated. House Speaker Mike Johnson says there is not a need for lawmakers to return early.
This is going to go on for some time. We certainly are grateful for all the first responders who are actively working under very difficult conditions. Congress has previously provided FEMA with the funds it needs to respond, so we will make sure that those resources are appropriately allocated.
This week, a bipartisan group of lawmakers from states impacted by the storm urged their colleagues to be ready to return.
First, making sure that every type of fund within FEMA or within DHS that can be transferred temporarily there to serve the immediate needs, we should do it. Secondly, if Congress has to come back for a week or for a few days to make sure that we can appropriate money so that they're taken care of, then that's what we ought to do.
Others say Secretary Mayorkas has spent billions to house and aid illegal migrants, taxpayer money that should be going to help Americans.
The people of Asheville are really scratching their head that they're hearing from the DHS secretary they're out of money to help them, but they still have money to help people who have come to this country illegally.
FEMA says there's about 4,500 federal personnel on the ground in states hard hit by the recent hurricane, but residents say that help isn't arriving quick enough, and they are frustrated as the death toll continues to rise. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Eric. And more than 200 deaths are being attributed to Hurricane Helene and its aftermath. North Carolina was particularly hard hit. Rescue crews are still searching for scores of missing people. But you can see the extent of the destruction here with these before and after pictures. It's heart-wrenching. This is in Chimney Rock, North Carolina. It also gives a sense of just how hard it is for the rescue crews to navigate there, since roads are washed out, homes and businesses are destroyed, and power lines are still down. And tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, EWTN News in Depth will take a closer look at the Catholic response to the hurricane aftermath. In the meantime, work is resuming today in ports on the East Coast and in the Gulf. This comes after the dockworkers strike, which began earlier this week, was suspended until January. The work stoppage began when 45,000 U.S. dockworkers walked off the job. Late yesterday, their union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance reached a tentative agreement on wages. Many feared had the strike continued, it would have led to shortages of daily items and skyrocketing prices. And for analysis, we turn now to Patrick Penfield, professor of practice supply chain management at Syracuse University in New York. Professor Penfield, great to have you on the show. We appreciate it. So let's talk more about this compromise and how it was reached. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, first off, great to be here, Tracy. So the compromise, or this, the agreement was reached last night. So late last night. So again, the International Longshoremen Association and the Maritime Association got together and hammered out an agreement. But this is, again, just a kind of a temporary agreement. So all they've done is they've kind of postponed the finalization of the agreement till January. But for the most part, it's basically a done deal.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, a lot of concern. I mean, it was only 3 days that the strike lasted, but still some repercussions. Talk to us about that and, kind of what happens with all those goods that were piled up for the past few days.
Yeah, so that's the unfortunate thing when you have an issue like that. It's basically about $5 billion in economic activity that's basically lost, each day that the strike was going on. So what happens for every day of a strike, Tracy, it's about 5 days of supply chain disruption. And so that's kind of what's going to be going on for probably the next week, 2 weeks, is just trying to get through all that stuff that's there. So there are a bunch of ships that are queued outside the ports. There's containers at the ports. So it's more or less cleanup right now. So they've got to go through and try to, get what they need to get to, to their customers.
Yeah, and there was a lot of panic on consumers' parts. A lot of people going out and kind of, buying things up at the store because they were afraid this was going to last too long. Can you talk a little bit more about that and kind of the panic buying caused by this?
Yeah, absolutely, Tracy. So this is, we haven't seen this since the pandemic, right? So, during the pandemic, I think this, for the most part, for most of us, that was really our first exposure to panic buying with the toilet paper. So I think it's one of those things from a psychological standpoint where people feel like they want to be able to control things. And so one of those things is, hey, if I can buy enough supplies to last, in case this situation carries on, then, that's what they're going to do. And so unfortunately, when you see somebody buying, an extra package of toilet paper or another, box of water, you go ahead and turn to do the same. And so then it causes this major issue, a major problem from a demand and supply standpoint. So I'm glad that, this is over. So, we don't have to go through that situation where there's no toilet paper or paper towels or water on the shelves. So I think for the most part, it's a good thing right now.
Yeah, and real quick before we let you go, any big takeaways from all of this?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is again just how important the ports are to us here in the United States, and really it's kind of a situation where, again, if you have one party or the other where there's an issue or problem, it can impact the whole economic activity in the United States. So I'm glad that we won't have to talk about this probably for another 6 years, at least on this side of the United States. But again, it's important, and I'm glad both parties, came to somewhat of an agreement.
Yeah, and the supply chain is so important. We really don't think about it until something like this happens. Professor Penfield, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Tracy. Have a great evening.
All right, now to the Middle East, where Israel has unleashed another round of airstrikes hitting suburban Beirut. The blast sent plumes of smoke and flames into the sky, shaking buildings miles away. The strikes got off the main border crossing between Lebanon and Syria. The Israeli military says that it targeted Hezbollah's Central Intelligence Headquarters around midnight, but did not say if anyone was killed in the strike. However, Israel claims to have killed 100 Hezbollah fighters in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, today, the Israeli military says Hezbollah launched about 100 rockets into Israel. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a big win for a teacher in Virginia and what so-called preferred pronouns had to do with it. We have that story. And a major shift in euthanasia laws in the UK. We have the details. Back. A proposal in the UK to give terminally ill people with 6 months or less to live the so-called right to choose to end their life will be introduced in Parliament this month. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is in favor of the law, said that he would ensure time for the Parliament to debate on the issue. MPs will be able to vote based on their personal beliefs and not on party lines. Currently, assisted suicide is illegal in the UK with penalties up to 14 years in prison. Countries such as Switzerland, Austria, Canada, and several U.S. states have also legalized euthanasia. Our reaction is pouring in after a Christian teacher wins a $575,000 settlement from a school district near Richmond, Virginia. Peter Fleming refused to use male pronouns to refer to a female student who believed that she was a boy. Instead, he called the student by her preferred new name. Still, in 2018, he was dismissed by the West Point School Board. Fleming's lawsuit initially was thrown out by a lower court before being reconsidered by the state Supreme Court. Lions Defending Freedom worked on the case after the state Supreme Court victory. In it, it said in part, quote, Peter wasn't fired for something he said. He was fired for something he couldn't say. And for more on this case, let's bring in Caleb Dalton, Senior Counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom. Caleb, good to be with you today. So what more can you tell us about this case? And really, what was at the heart of it here?
Tracy, thanks so much for having me. At the heart of this case was whether or not the government can compel conformity to an ideology, can compel a teacher to lie. And we're thankful that when the Virginia Supreme Court heard this case, they said the answer to that is a resounding no. In the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Virginia, You cannot compel a teacher to tell a lie. And everybody, whether or not you agree with Peter's position on this, should applaud that ruling because this protects the right of free speech for all Americans.
Yeah, and Caleb, Peter sued the school district for being fired, but the lower court originally dismissed the case, and then he appealed, and it went on to the state Supreme Court. What was the reasoning why the lower court didn't take up the case in the first place?
Well, the lower court actually didn't give any rationale for its opinion. It dismissed the case from the bench, which was astounding, especially given the importance of free speech and free exercise in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Commonwealth here had a free exercise clause that was the model for the country before our First Amendment was even passed. And we're thankful that that ruling was so strong. We think it should be a model for other states and even the federal government around the country, because the First Amendment is worth protecting. Free speech is for everyone, whether or not you agree with Peter or not. You shouldn't agree with a totalitarian ideology that says your neighbor, via the power of the government, gets to tell you what you can and can't say. So we're thankful that that freedom is protected for him and for teachers around the Commonwealth.
And let's talk about your client now, Peter. You know, it's been quite some time since that first case was filed. What has he been doing in between, and how is he doing now? What was his reaction to this ruling?
Well, he's thankful that he can move on to a new chapter in his life. The last 6 years have been tough. He was ostracized from the teaching community. He was a stellar teacher, beloved in his community. He coached the soccer team. He drove the school bus, contributed to his school community there, and was ostracized from what he loved doing. So it's been tough, but he's excited now to be able to stand up for the rights of everyone, of other teachers who may not have been in the same position as him, or maybe who are considering whether or not they can stand up and do the right thing in a tough situation. He did that. He paid a high penalty at first, but we're thankful that he at least got some recompense for it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a whole lot of time left, but what's next for him, and also next for the school district?
Yeah, so I'll hit the school district first. The school district has adopted new policies that the governor of Virginia's task force put forth. So the policies have already been changed to protect other teachers in the school district. We're thankful for that. And for Peter, he's now working for a French Christian book publishing company, and trying to provide for his family that way. Because he was ostracized, there was true, real consequences from what the school board did to him and his family.
Oh, we're going to leave right there. Caleb, thank you so much for coming on, explaining all this to us. We really appreciate it. God bless.
Thanks, Tracy.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Grace Before Meals, a global initiative raising awareness on the importance of fasting. Plus, a church leader from Texas addresses the synod on synodality. Segment, we shine the light on a global initiative highlighting the power of prayer and fasting, set to begin next week. The 32nd International Week of Prayer and Fasting kicks off October 12th with an in-person event in Fairfax, Virginia. It also features online talks from Jim Wahlberg and Bishop Emeritus Robert J. Baker, among others. This year's theme is Conquering the Darkness, Triumph of Mercy, Hope, and Healing. And joining us now in the studio with a preview of this year's event are the co-founders, Ted and Maureen Flynn. And thank you both so much for being here today. Such a blessing to have you in the studio.
Yes, thank you. And we love being here because we loved Mother Angelica, and we love all the people that work at EWTN.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Maureen, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit more about the event and why it's so important.
Okay. Years ago, back in October 7, 1990, we started the National Week of Prayer and Fasting because there were so many problems with the life issue back then. Of course, over the years, it seems to, gotten worse, except we did have the overthrow of Roe v. Wade, thank God. But we started this movement because of the attacks on marriage, family, life, then the attacks on the priesthood, the church, and so it grew and grew and grew over the years.
Yeah, it's a beautiful event. I know each year you have a different theme. Ted, tell us about this year's theme and why it's significant.
Well, this is about overcoming darkness, and the reason we did this, we've been in Washington now a long time. We met here, we married, we've stayed here, although go with stints in and out. But when you go to battle and you absolutely need to win, the Lord was very, very clear in Matthew 9, Mark 9 and Matthew 17, unless by prayer and fasting. And whenever you see the word fasting, you will see prayer with it. And we felt that the war of words, you know, we're in Washington, D.C. area, and everybody's a talker and this and that. But if you really want to win a battle, you fast.
We're almost out of time, but I want to make sure I get this in. I know so many people are interested in being part of this. Maureen, tell us how people can get involved, where they can get more information.
Okay, the big way is to go to our website at iwopf.org. They also can contact us through a phone number. I think you're going to post that later. But if they go online, they can see that they can watch these talks free on the day of the virtual talks, and they can also see the pre-recorded talks from the conference that's going to be October 12th at St. Mary of Sorrows Catholic Church in Fairfax. And if they want to purchase the All Access Pass, they can watch 33 talks over the next year.
Thank you both so much for doing all that you do. We really appreciate it. It's a great blessing and so very much needed. God bless you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, after 2 years of renovations, the Vatican's press room has reopened in time for the Synod's daily briefings. It is now a popular spot for bishops, religious, and lay people as they discuss topics and issues related to the life of the Church. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sidegren has more.
It is the start of the Synod. Over the next 4 weeks, hundreds of participants will gather in the Paul VI Hall inside the Vatican to explore and discern the most effective ways to carry out the Catholic Church's mission in the future.
Actually, I would like to have a little bit more concrete suggestion how we can implement synodality in the parishes down to the grassroots, because many people there are still wondering what is it about the synodality, and we can experience it here in a very nice way. This togetherness, this together walking, praying, discussing, discerning with bishops, cardinals, lay people, and it's a wonderful atmosphere.
U.S. Bishop Daniel Flores is one of the 9 people Pope Francis chose to serve as president delegates of the Synod of Bishops this year. He stressed that Catholics need to listen to all perspectives. He referred to his own diocese located in a poor area on the border of Texas and Mexico. Bishop Flores told reporters it is largely bilingual, but there is a voice there of the people that has something to say about how the Lord Jesus shows himself.
The perspective is not the enemy of the truth. It's the normal way of the Church. That's why we have 4 Gospels. And so the synodal reality is to be aware that the perspective approaches the same mystery, but from its own context. And that it's important for the rest of the body to hear it.
While the Vatican shut down speculation regarding further theological study into the possibility of women being ordained as deacons, the Synod will still delve into topics such as the role of women in the Church and lay participation.
We are focusing so much on the role of the women in the Church. And I think it was from Sweden, there was a report which said, don't forget the laymen, because they are also missing in our church.
Other topics up for discussion include the risk of the disappearance of Eastern churches due to war, polygamy in Africa, and the proclamation of the gospel in the digital age. In Rome, Benedict Sidegren, EWTN News Nightly.
Oh, finally, tonight, if you're looking for something fun to do with the family this weekend, well, there is a new movie out that you don't want to miss. Monster Summer is a film that tells the tale of a group of children who team up with a retired police detective to save their island from a mysterious force. Well, the film stars Mel Gibson, and it opens today. The movie's director, David Henry, and producer John Blanford recently sat down with Deacon Charlie Escobarri of EWTN Next to discuss the film.
So for us, we specifically are releasing October 4th because we want a Halloween event family movie, which is counter programming to a lot of the hard R horror stuff that's coming out. So we want a clean alternative that's still fun, still spooky. If you think Goosebumpsy kind of things might be a good comp too. That type of offset for families to have an option in Halloween to go do something as a family. So
we're coming out the same day as the Joker, and we couldn't be more opposite of that film.
Yes.
That to me is a glorification of evil. I mean, it literally looks like a love story to trauma.
Yeah, you're not going to bring your 9-year-old to that movie.
No. So my dream is the headlines read Monster Summer takes down the Joker, but we'll see what happens.
We're David with our rock, but we believe in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe it. It's just crazy enough to actually succeed in that way. And you guys have this association this is your freshman effort working together?
Working together, yes.
Okay.
We both have our past in the industry, but yes.
For sure. And are there other stories? I mean, I know there's worlds that you can explore from here, but other IP, other things that you guys are looking at right now in partnership or collaboration?
And I would say beyond the IP, which we absolutely have a well of IP and we're building it every day, this is a really good partnership here.
Yeah.
Like David's expertise and experience coming out of, LA and being a child actor and now EPing the next iteration of Wizard of Waverly Place. He's got a lot of amazing relationships that helped Monster Summer land the cast that we keep mentioning. And then my background and my business partner's background at Pastime Pictures, we literally were production assistants and kind of came all the way up to become DJ ADs. And
Free Guy, Bad Boys.
All of our relationships are with the crew. And, when we finally got this greenlit and Mel had agreed to come do this with us, and we just started calling people, not knowing what they'd say on the other end of that phone call, and everyone showed up. And I think there's a duty for Christian filmmakers as well to kind of keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And David was really gung-ho to join us in this effort to create a more dignified, prosperous work environment for those people.
I know what I'm doing this weekend. Thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.